Warning, the stocks in this video are not suited for brand new investors, so don't try this at home. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about 10 stocks that I believe are high risk but give you the potential for high rewards. Some of these stocks are down, 20-30%. Some of these stocks are down over 50%. And some of them have such massive upside that it's very difficult to just ignore the fact these companies are down so much. Now, I want to make it very clear that these are not recommendations. I'm not telling you to go out and buy these stocks because I think that there's a high capital loss potential with these companies. You could lose a bunch of money if you invest in these businesses because they haven't really proven out their business model over a very long period of time. So all I'll say is this before we get into the video: make sure you do your own due diligence, understand these companies well before you put a single penny into these stocks. But anyways guys, this video is a thank you for hitting 500 likes on the previous video, and if we can get another 500 likes on this video, that'd be awesome. But anyways, let's jump into the charts and talk about these stocks. Alright guys, so for this part of the video, we're going to jump over here to TradingView. It's a platform I use for my charting, and then we're going to use another website called TipRanks for analyst information as well for some of these companies. Not all of them have info, some of them do. Starting off the list, Skills is one I want to talk about because this one was very hyped here on YouTube. A lot of people were buying into this one. You can see this had a really massive run, going from around $12, $10 at a SPAC up to $45 per share. So this was a massive return, but ever since then, we have taken a pretty decent sized correction here. We've taken about a 50% haircut. So you're getting some good value if you believe this was, justified at this valuation up here. Now we're getting a half off sale essentially. Look at what analysts have to say about this stock. We can see here that analysts are pretty bullish, around a 20% upside. It's pretty much general consensus here is that they are positive on the stock. There's no one here with a sell rating. Everyone has a price target higher than current prices. So this is kind of looking like a pretty decent play, at least even for a short bounce, especially after this massive sell-off, and definitely one I wanted to cover today. Next up is a stock we've talked about a few times on the channel, Fastly, and I kind of threw this in the high risk section because there's still a company that loses a lot of money. There's still a company that has, growing pains, and they also have quite a bit of competition here. So not like clear skies ahead. However, the technical setup is starting to look extremely attractive. So we can see here, we had a massive sell-off late last year, created a bottom, moved higher. Now we've come back and actually tested this bottom once again. We've created a double bottom here, guys, and this is typically a very bullish setup for charts. So when you have a double bottom, typically what happens is this is going to start moving higher, and we could possibly make new highs. Right now, from the highs last year to the lows just a couple of weeks ago, it was down 57%. This is quite significant. I'm not a huge fan of this business in terms of a long-term holding. However, looking at the technicals, I just had to point this out to you guys. Some of you guys like trading stuff on technicals. In terms of what analysts have to say here, we can see on TipRanks that they see a 15% upside, but this is a little bit more mixed. There's some analysts that actually say this is a sell. Downside quite a bit more from what we're at right now, but general consensus is, around $80 or so per share, which is a good $10 from where we're at today. I think this one has a pretty good probability, especially with the 50 moving average here. It's slightly below it, but we're trying to break above it now, and if we do, probably, like I said, a run back to all-time highs. Next up is APXT. So this one is a recent SPAC. The merger hasn't gone through yet because the ticker symbol hasn't changed yet. However, this one, again, a reason I wanted to point this out was because of a perfect technical setup. We came down, corrected 41%, bounced off of this moving average here. You can see even though we went much below, we got bought up that same week, and we closed pretty close to that, and then the next week we broke above. Now we're staying above that. This one's looking to me like it's probably going to have another run up to probably around the $15 mark or so, and then maybe we roll over and come back down, or we just continue moving higher. Not much to say in terms of what analysts think about the stock because it's still kind of pending merger, but I like my technicals, I like my charting, and I wanted to point this one out to you guys as well. Number 4 on our list is BigCommerce. You guys really want me to discuss this stock. Maybe I'll create a dedicated video on this, but for now, let's just look at the charts here and look what analysts have to say, because it's an interesting company. You know, e-commerce is definitely a space where we know it's going to keep growing massively over the next decade or two. We know that businesses are shifting over to this. We know this is the future. However, the stock not doing all that great. From its highs, it's down 66.92%. That is a pretty significant sell-off. Investors don't seem to be buying the story here with big C. Shopify is, of course, one of their competitors. However, they don't really overlap completely. And Shopify is one that's, you know, making new highs on a weekly basis. It's pulled back right now, but this has had a phenomenal last year, 2020. BigCommerce, not so much. It had a little bit of a bounce, but now we're pretty much, you know, at the lowest point the stock has ever been at. Now, looking at what analysts have to say about this one, we can see that it is fairly positive. A 31.93% upside is what analysts believe. A lot of them see, you know, 50, 30, 50% upside. So a lot of positivity here with the stock. It's looking to be fairly oversold here, in the mid 50s or so. Not much in terms of moving average technicals because it's still fairly new on the market. However, if we look at the daily, we can see here that we've pretty much, you know, we're sitting below all of the averages. We're trying to create some sort of base here, and we could, you know, rebound and move higher. Maybe we don't break out all the way. Maybe we just continue this lower pattern. But there's definitely some room for a pretty good run, probably to around $70, which is what, again, analysts believe the stock should be by the end of the year. Okay, so next up is a stock we talked about on the channel before, Butterfly Network. It used to be a different ticker symbol, but now it's merged, and now the ticker symbol is BFly. And this stock is, you know, relatively pretty good. It's holding up pretty well in the market. It's down 51% at its lows. However, it's up significantly in just the last few months. So it's not all that bad if you got in even around here, which was like the end of December timeframe. Now, in terms of technicals, again, this is fairly new, so there's not a whole lot to say. However, when I see stocks down 50%, it typically gets my attention to at least look into further. I've done a deep dive video on this. You guys can look into that. I've talked about its competitors. I was kind of debating investing in this stock back around here, but I never really got in because I don't really know if Butterfly has that big of an advantage over its competitors. However, you know, they have some big names backing them. I believe Bill Gates was one that's backing this company, so definitely one that could do well long term. Now, unfortunately, since this is fairly new, there's not much to say in terms of analyst information, so let's move on to our next pick, which is Poshmark. And it's another one I've discussed on the channel. Down almost 60% since going public just about a month or two ago. And this one is just brutal. I feel for anyone who got into this stock here on pretty much the beginning week, and it peaked at over $100 per share. Now we're sitting at under $50 per share, but I think we're getting pretty close to a bottom, guys. We're getting pretty close to a bottom. They had earnings recently, it popped, but then, you know, market sell-off, all that stuff has really brought this back down. Now, Poshmark is one that I do believe has quite a bit of analyst information. We can see here that analysts believe this is severely undervalued, 44.69% upside. Some analysts believe 50, 70% upside, 45%, 82% upside. So some analysts are extremely bullish on this one. Some analysts are still kind of skeptical on how well this can do. However, the consensus here is that this is quite a bit oversold, and even analysts that say hold still see a price higher than what we're at today. So this could definitely be one that's severely oversold and, you know, is ready for a bounce up, even if it is to around the $70, $80 price range. So next up is another one we've talked about on the channel before, done a video on, and actually one that I did a swing play and did pretty decent on, Wish. So back here when the stock went public, it sold off quite a bit, and I started buying somewhere around here. I didn't really catch the bottom, but I bought, I believe, somewhere in the low 20s, and then I averaged again somewhere in the $17 range, I believe. And then the stock reversed. We went all the way up. I sold for around a 20-something% profit, so did pretty decent on the stock in a fairly short period of time. Of course, it ran higher because you can't time the tops and bottoms. But then ever since, you know, early Feb, it's just been sell, 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 sell. And then with the market going down, this thing has just taken a nosedive, and we actually made a lower low than what we did back in December. Now again, this one's fairly new, so on the weekly, there's not too much to see. However, we can kind of see some sort of pattern starting to develop. We have a bottom here. We're creating what looks like another bottom here. So this could be another one that reverses and starts moving higher. At around $17, I think there's more upside than downside in the stock. And if we look at what analysts say here, it seems that the general consensus is a strong buy with nearly a 40% upside. I think $25, that's pretty reasonable for this stock. And, you know, with us trading at 17, I think it's a little bit oversold here and poses a good technical setup at least for some decent gains. Now, long term, not really that bullish on this business. I don't really like the whole model of selling these cheap knockoff things. However, they are growing, they are doing fairly well, and you know, if you're looking at technical setups, this one is hard to ignore. All right, next one is one we've never really discussed on the channel, SurveyMonkey. I'm sure you guys have used SurveyMonkey's services, you know, to do surveys and stuff, and it caught my attention because down 41% is quite a big drop for a stock that's been around for, you know, a few years on the public markets, right? What's interesting is that we've come down to the 100 moving average on the weekly. We dipped slightly below that, but we seem to be hovering around this, implying to me that we're creating some sort of bottom here and possibly could see a big rebound up. So you can see back here in when we had the March 2020 crash, this one took a pretty steep correction, but it rebounded just as fast. It's a pretty quick mover, fairly small business still. However, lots of upside here, especially after this recent drop. And I'm liking where this has found kind of a bottom here. You can see this is kind of where it consolidated quite a bit here back in 2019. And that's where we're at right now once again. In terms of what analysts have to say about this one, should have good amount of information here. So 57% upside is what analysts believe. This may be one of the better buys here on the list. You have some reputable analysts, you know, Wells Fargo, Credit Suisse, Merrill Lynch. You have some pretty reputable analysts being fairly bullish on this name. A lot of them see massive upside that they reiterated as little as 1 month ago. So this one seems to be one that, you know, is one that I'm going to spend more time looking into. I think it definitely caught my attention here with this big, almost half off sale. And it's looking awfully similar to what happened back in 2020, where it just, you know, sold off massive, rebounded, and made new highs in just a few months. All right, getting into our last couple picks here, guys. First, Solar. This is one that I've tracked for a little bit of time. I haven't made a position in yet. However, it's starting to look a little bit interesting here. And I know it's been around for a little while. The long-term charts don't look all that great in it. However, what I'm starting to see is sort of a reversal of this trend. So we're starting to make higher lows. So we made a low here, another low there, another low there. And you can see they're slightly higher every time, right? And we could be making another low right now. We possibly come back down to this level around the low 60s, possibly even to the 50s, reverse, and then start moving higher once again. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is one of my most favorite picks here out of these 10 stocks. However, with the recent sell-off, with, you know, everything going on in the market, solar companies are definitely ones that should see a good decade ahead of them. So I want to just throw that on your list here. What analysts have to say about this one is a 14% upside. So not too shabby. It's kind of mixed if you look at the breakdown of analysts here. Some have sells, some have holds, some have buys. So it's kind of mixed in terms of what they actually believe in this company when you look at individuals. But overall, the consensus is a hold. However, 15% upside from today's prices. So not too shabby. Not a huge performer expected for the next year or so. But if you're looking for something in the solar space, this is one to definitely research further into. All right, and next up we have Jumia. This one you guys have asked me a ton to talk about. So here you go, I'm going to talk about it briefly. This one is, again, down around 54% at its lows, you know, at the beginning of March, just a few weeks ago. If you look at the weekly here, you can see we came down pretty close to this technical setup, which is the 50 moving average, which I like to see stocks correct to. And right now we're sitting, you know, a decent amount above it. However, I think we could see another rollover here, come a little bit lower, and then start moving higher. So Jumia is massive, another player in the e-commerce space. It's kind of like known as the Amazon of Africa, whatever. But yeah, one I look into because technical setup is starting to show that this one is oversold. Long term, if you believe in Africa and you believe in diversifying internationally, this is one that you probably want to spend a little bit of time looking into. And right now, with a 54% sale at its lows, currently sitting at around a 40% sale, not too shabby, definitely one that could return good over time. They're kind of mixed on this. $40 what the price target is. I believe there's a 5% downside. There's not too many analysts covering the stock because it is an international name, and typically with those stocks you don't get too many analysts covering it. However, the most recent analysts, they've come up with a hold rating here. They don't really give us a price target. The other one also had a hold rating, but a $48 price target. The one with the downside was from around 2 months ago, so they probably haven't updated their views on the company since then. And this analyst, I mean, they're fairly new. They've done only 7 out of 7 trades, but they have a 100% success rate so far. So, I mean, good on them. Anyways, I think Jumia, wouldn't really take the analyst information too seriously here for this one because there's not too much to go by. But from a technical standpoint, from a correction standpoint, from the future prospects of this business, where it's playing, what it's doing, definitely one you want to keep on your radar. Okay guys, so again, this software here for the charting is called TradingView, and this right here is called TipRanks. You want to see what analysts have to say about your favorite stocks. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you would be purchasing any of these 10 stocks. Are you staying far away from them? Love to hear from you in the comments below. But either way guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.